Now we are recording. So sorry to those of you that are watching the recording. You didn't miss too much. Just introductions. So we are going to record this. If you have to jump away, that's okay. We'll post it probably within a day or two on our website. We're going to start with a discussion just on kind of some of the struggles we're all encountering moving to remote. I'm going to turn things over to Jessica, and she's going to be kind of leading the next few sessions sections of doing a summary of UDL, just kind of giving us the nuts and bolts of what UDL is. They're going to do some self-exploration. This might be new for you. We're actually going to not stop the webinar or stop the training, but just pause the training and let you spend some time looking through some resources to kind of prep you for the next part of the session. If you're like, oh, I want to talk to somebody, we'll have an extrovert room for you as well. You can jump in and you can chat about it. Then we'll have you do kind of look at the implementation rubric and do your own self-assessment just to see where you're at. And I think a lot of you might find that you're already doing a lot of this UDL stuff. You just might not have a name for it. From there, we'll go into some breakout rooms on different UDL principles, and we'll talk about ways that we can integrate that principle into your summer programming that we talked about in the idea boards. Tomorrow, we'll be focusing on guideline rows and talking a lot about guideline rows. We'll have a breakout room about those. There's a little bit of small homework in between, nothing too big, but it should help you for day 2. We'll do some more self-reflection. And I actually can't see the right side of my screen, but we're going to do a breakout room in the day with a breakout room, talking about different resources that you can take from here and move on. So this is an abbreviated version of this bigger training that Infiniscope did this summer, but I think that this really highlights some good, tasty nuggets of information that you can take with you as you're planning for 2021. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into our discussion. Interested in, and you have 2 ways to respond to this. I'm going to ask Claire or Stephanie or Annie, could you drop that idea board's chat link, and this is different from the earlier one, into the chat box. And so what struggles have you had moving to remote, moving to virtual programs? You can either use the chat box or you can use the idea boards. And I'll pull up the idea boards on the screen so we can take a look at that. Thank you, Claire. Yeah, so you all should be able to see my idea boards now. And what's cool about this is you can upvote responses. Whoa, a bunch just came in. Okay, I'm just going to kind of start reading these off. Getting library patrons to actually register for online events and learning technology to be effective online. Absolutely. The tech side of things. I'm making that joke about like, hey, we're 8 months in and, people have kind of figured out Zoom. But early on during the quarantine, I'd spend the first 5 minutes of our webinars talking about how to use Zoom and how to not get confused with screen sharing and stuff like that. So definitely those technical hurdles. Not keeping my work hours to my work hours. Yeah, that's me and Annie were Teams messaging last night late on a proposal we were working on. Definitely understand that. Keeping patrons engaged in programs. That's definitely something that it's really hard to measure the engagement when you're virtual. You can't always see faces and see people, really interacting. Limited types of content to produce, limited approval from administration on certain types of digital content. Certainly understand that. Struggling with getting patrons to register online and difficulty living in a rural area with not a lot of internet access. Yeah, absolutely. It's hard because a lot of patrons rely on the library for internet access and they're not able to attend virtual programs because, I don't know, there's a lot of struggles there. Even when we pay to have professional performers present high quality performances, kind of an alliteration, we don't have any patron interest in online programs. Yeah, that would be so frustrating to shell out big money for a professional presenter and then to have them not actually, nobody actually attend. Wow. Patron screen burnout, absolutely. These are really great responses, y'all, and I don't want to cut the conversation too short, but I want to make sure we have time for the rest of our things. I'm going to keep this and we can export this idea board and we can post that in the Google Classroom so everybody can kind of see, what everyone else is experiencing. Let me just jump over to the Zoom chat real quick. Yeah, so the internet access, that's absolutely 100%. Definitely, something in rural areas specifically. that folks are experiencing. So access is really something that's rising up to the top for me. I think we'll talk a little bit about that more tomorrow in a breakout room. All right, I'm going to stop sharing here. And I think, Jessica, if I'm not mistaken, you're up next in this. So I'll let, would you like to share the screen or would you like for me to share the slides?
You can go ahead and share the screen. That's fine. I'll just be like, hey, switch that screen.
That's fine.
Alrighty. So those are all fantastic responses. It helps us to be able to kind of get a sense of, be able to kind of dig into your heads and see what are the things that you were struggling with the most. And so our hope is that what we can do is to provide you the framework for universal design for learning to help you think outside of that box. Especially, it looks like what we really need to think about more is how do we do our programming that's a little less digital, but still figure out a way to get that information out to our patrons so they know how they can engage in any format that is of interest to them. That's not unusual. We're hearing that in the formal education realm also. So what I want to do real quick is to kind of go give a quick overview. If you had an opportunity to go into the Google Classroom and you watched the 30-minute presentation by Dr. Katie Novak, she is fantastic. If you haven't done that, I highly recommend that you go back and that you watch that. But in order to make sure that we've got kind of everybody on a level playing field, we're going to do a quick overview of what is UDL before we move forward. So universal design for learning is actually a research-based whole brain approach to learning. And it allows us to be able to connect a variety of our brain networks, and that is responsible for an individual's motivation and their ability to learn. So the ultimate goal of UDL is to empower these expert learners that are purposeful and motivated, that they're resourceful and knowledgeable, and that they're strategic and goal directed. All right, so let's go ahead and go to the next slide. So let's focus here on this aspect, this principle that is called engagement. Engagement is not unfamiliar. We all are constantly thinking about how do we engage our patrons. This is probably one of your strongest suits when you're thinking through your summer programming. But engagement really represents the why of learning. So some learners are really highly engaged by things like spontaneity and the novelty of things, while other learners are going to be really disengaged by that sort of thing. Some of them may even be frightened. They don't like spontaneity. They might prefer a more of a strict routine. Some learners might prefer to work alone, while others prefer to be in group work. The reality is that there's really not any one means of engagement that's going to be optimal for all learners and in all contexts. So providing multiple options for engagement is essential, and really it all boils down to how it makes the learner feel. So this is all about affect. How does the learner feel when they're going through the programming, when they're in this learning environment? So that the idea here is to offer a variety of ways to engage. And so there are multiple levels or tiers that you'll see noted over on the right-hand side. You have ways of recruiting interest, you have ways of sustaining effort and persistence, and then you also have ways of self-regulation. All of those things fall under engagement. Let's go ahead and go to our next slide. So this one is, this principle is about representation. So representation is really the what of learning. So learners, again, they differ in the ways that they perceive and comprehend information that's really presented to them. So for example, you have people that have sensory disabilities, so things like blindness or deafness. You have learning disabilities, things such as dyslexia. There's language differences, cultural differences. All of these things can kind of wrap up and require different ways of approaching content. Some of those things we were talking about early, just as we were getting started here today even. Also learning in itself and the transfer of learning that really occurs when multiple representations are used. So when a learner is given the opportunity to engage in that content in a variety of ways, that really allows them to make that connection and really connect with the content and the concepts. So in short, there's really not any one means of representation that's going to be optimal for all learners. Providing options for representation is essential. And again, we've given a handful of examples here. There's concepts about perception, how do you interact with flexible content? Language and symbols are very important. And how do you construct meaning and generate new understandings? Okay, our next slide. So the third principle of UDL is called action and expression. So action and expression really represents how we learn. So learners differ in the ways that they navigate a learning environment and express what they know. So for example, you might have individuals with significant movement impairments. So, maybe it's somebody with cerebral palsy, maybe it's somebody in a wheelchair. So these are barriers that we need to be able to plan for and overcome. And then there are those who struggle with things that are like strategic and organizational abilities. So this is what we call executive functioning disorders. And some people have language barriers, and all of these require a different approach, a different thought process of how can you address many of these needs of our individual patrons as they're coming into the library. So it should be recognized that action and expression requires a great deal of strategy. It requires a lot of practice and organization. You have to think through all of those barriers so that you can plan for how to overcome those particular barriers. All right, let's go to our next slide. So in just general overview, I'm gonna nail this 5 minutes, Brooks. I'm on it. Yes. So in general, overall, I think you can take, if we want to boil it down to really simple terms, it's us identifying the potential barriers to learning within your program, and then just offering different modalities for all levels of engagement, representation, and this action and expression. So I know that's a real quick whirlwind tour. So if you didn't watch the video, that's again why I recommend that you go back and watch the video, because I did give you the whirlwind tour. If you'll go to the next slide for us real quick, Brooks. And as was addressed earlier, many of you are already doing a lot of these things. So the idea is progress, not perfection. How can we continue to move forward in our quest to design universally? So what we'd like for you to do is to kind of think for a moment, and wow, this really looks great on the screen. It actually shows up really well. So you have a couple of ways to evaluate yourself. So all 3 of these principles are laid out here on this rubric. What we want you to do is to self-assess for each one of these principles: engagement, representation, action, expression. Where do you fall on this rubric? There is the term classroom, substitute classroom with the word library, and now it applies to you perfectly. And Sina is going to drop a link in the chat. If you cannot see this on your screen and you're on a small display, she'll drop that link in the chat and you can open this full size up for yourself. And we're going to go ahead and also post a poll. So when you have evaluated yourself, where you fall, we want you to pick one principle. Is it engagement, representation, or action and expression? Which one of those do you feel you might be the weakest in, and that might be the area you want to focus on for the remainder of this training? So let me do a quick review. Evaluate yourself on all 3 principles. There is a poll that will pop up. Whatever is your lowest score is probably the category that you want to be working towards the remainder of this training. Go ahead and click that when you're done with evaluating yourself, so we know you're done.
I'm going to just pop in here real quick. I realized that I didn't open sharing access for that document. So if you've requested access, give me just a second and I'll get you in there.
And yeah, I'll go ahead and launch that poll. Again, don't complete that until you've reviewed through everything. And so I just launched it. And I'll also say too, Jessica mentioned, like, think of classroom, substitute that with library, but you can also think about the places that you go out and do outreach, right? The library is more than just that physical location. So you can think about doing outreach and other, going to other physical places as well. All right, well, I'm going to mute myself, and I guess when everybody comes back, then we'll put you all into breakout rooms.
Brooks, I can't actually see results, so you'll have to let me know when you think we've got a pretty good representation and we're ready to go.
Okay, that sounds good.
I did neglect to recognize that there is one use case here. If you have connected to this webinar, this meeting by browser, then you probably cannot see the poll or interact with the poll. So if you'll just pop your response into the chat, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, thanks, Jessica. I didn't think about that.
While we're waiting, Margot has a really nice thought I want to read in the chat that I hope you all hold on to because it's really relevant. She said, something I noticed in my practice is that it's much easier for me to be flexible with student expressions of their learning, given the learning goal that was set, than I am at developing content that makes space for every student to feel relevance and connection. Like, it's really good that you can recognize the difference between those two ideas.
So just a quick reminder, so that we can kind of keep track of how many people have completed it. If you can respond to the poll to let us know which principle is of most interest to you, the area that you think might actually be your weakest. go ahead and enter that as a poll, or go ahead and post it over in the chat if you are unable to see the poll. That's going to help us sort you into breakout rooms.
Yeah, and if you're kind of looking around, where's the poll? It's on your, it's either going to be at the top of your screen on the toolbar or at the bottom of your screen on the toolbar. Or if you are logged on, as Jessica said, through the browser, you might just pop it in the chat. So I actually haven't seen any of the poll responses come in yet, which is totally okay if you're still reading and moving through this. But
Brooke, we just got to 100% voted. I don't know why I can see it and you can't.
oh, that's so weird. Okay.
That was perfect timing. We just hit 44 people.
Well, thanks. That's good to know. Can you share the results on your end, Annie?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Anyone see those?
Good.
Yes, I see
You
it.
can totally see those. All right.
How do
Well,
I?
looks like about half of you are most interested in multiple means of engagement. Interesting. So how many rooms do we want to make for that then Brooks?
I am seeing 0% on all of my poll results. I have no idea why. I'm the host.
So Brooke, it's 22 people on multiple means of engagement, 7 on representation, and 15 on action and expression.
I say we go with our original plan then.
That sounds good.
Perfect.
All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up breakout rooms, and we just learned yesterday that there is a fantastic Zoom update that allows you as a participant to float in and out of rooms. You can go to any room you want. We don't have to assign you to anything. So what we'll do is open up rooms, and you will see options to go to engagement, representation, or action and expression. And one of us fantastic facilitators will be there to chat with you, talk a little bit about the ideas board, and start kind of coming together and figuring out how we can work on that particular aspect in that summer programming as we continue through this process. So let's go ahead and open up those breakout rooms then.
Gillian's asking, where should we start? If we're just at C, what's the best starting point? I would say jump over maybe into the first one. I'm sorry, the multiple means of engagement.
Mm-hmm.
And Cindy, I think it's just a new Zoom feature that I think just came out just a few days ago. So when I was researching how to do some of this, it just, yeah, definitely helps if you're talking about, free choice learning to actually have people be able to choose.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's what we're trying to do here, is to demonstrate UDL. And so providing you choice and agency for where you want to go from here. Right.
And Sina, do I need to promote you to a host probably to let you do this?
Let me unmute my microphone. I don't know. I don't think so. I don't see the breakout rooms yet.
Me neither.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have not been putting them together. So if I was supposed to be doing that, I apologize. Bear with me just 1 second, y'all. Sorry about that.
So folks who are asking, once the rooms are available, you should see them at the bottom of your screen in the little toolbar. It should just be a box that says breakout rooms, and then you click that, and there'll be the name of the room and a little number that says how many people are in the room. When you click the number, there'll be a join button.
Not super intuitive, but better than what we've had in the past.
Right.
Oh, there's our join a breakout room.
There now, yep.
Jessica, I'm going to go ahead and jump in that first engagement one if you want to jump in the second engagement one.
Oh, I thought we were action and expression.
Excuse me, action and expression as well. Oops.
So those of you who are still not seeing the room option, it should be wherever your chat and participant button is. So if that's not at the bottom of your screen, go towards the top of your screen, and there might be like a more options little caret to click down.
You can also try expanding your window. So if you have your Zoom window a little bit smaller than your full screen, sometimes expanding that will allow the other button options to appear.
And I can, yeah, it could be an updated thing. I can assign you to a different breakout room too. If you would like to wait to be assigned. Okay, so maybe it's a different update feature. So yeah, let's just do this. If you could just tell me where to put you, and perhaps you could change it. Yeah, just put it in the chat and I'll pop you over into one.
Brooks, I'm going to go ahead and pop into an engagement room. Is that where you'd like me to go?
Yeah, I'm gonna put people into rooms. If y'all, the other facilitators, want to go ahead and jump into a room, that would be
Thank
great.
you.
Thanks.
And if you guys have any questions, I'll stay here in the main room and then I can direct you guys off.
Sorry, it's taking a little bit longer. I think I'm getting everybody there though. Control. If I have not put you into a room, if you want to go ahead and pop that in the chat again. So sorry about that, y'all. Engagements. Stephanie, are you able to pop people in? No? Okay.
No, I tried, but I apparently don't have that fun little button.
Oh gosh. Margot, Gillian, and Cheryl.
Margot wants engagement.
Thank you.
I'm on engagement and happy to go wherever. I'm still learning.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, you're all right. It's all good. Thank you.
Yeah. Cheryl? I'm gonna pop you into one. Stephanie Vince, I'm gonna pop you into one as well.
I voted for the bottom one.
All right.
So action and expression. I don't see a response from Cheryl of where she wants to go.
We can use you to step away. I'm gonna jump into this engagement one because I see that nobody's in there. Stephanie, could you let us know when it's 1:45
Yeah, I'll send you a direct message.
or text me?
Teams.
Hi, Stephanie.
Hey, I'm hanging out in the main room in case anybody.
Cool. So the room that I'm in has only 2 people, and one of them has a computer with no video or mic. So
Ooh.
I'm hoping we can join the other representation room because there's only like 3 people in there.
Yeah, let me get Brooks because I don't have the button to change it. But
Oh, okay.
let me get him real fast. Hey, Cindy, where are you trying to go?
To the other representation room.
The other represent. Okay.
Yes.
I'm trying to get Brooks so that way I can send you guys over there because
Awesome.
I don't have the magic. You text Brooks.
Oh, he's here.
Hey there, Stephanie.
Hey, can you move everybody to the representation room?
Everybody to the representation room?
Yes, to
Yeah,
the one where Claire is.
Okay. Everybody that's in here right now?
Yes.
Okay.
Got it.
So you should just have to click the join button. Did you guys not see that?
The what button?
There should be when Brooks moves you to the room, it should have said join breakout room.
Nothing. I see the breakout rooms now.
Oh, then just hit join on the representation one.
Got it.
Perfect.
I'll try one more time, Sina.
Okay, that worked.
Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
sorry. So we got to the room and it was just me and Jenny doesn't have video or audio. So it was just me and Cindy. Yeah. So I just thought it would be a better
Jenny's
discussion.
Jenny's in the other room again. I don't know
Okay.
if you can like move her.
Okay.
Yep. Let me put her in the other one.
So I'll just pop into the that other representation room and
Okay.
support.
Perfect.
Sorry, y'all. We can chat about this tomorrow. I think we're still good. We'll just chat about it tomorrow and we'll come up with a better plan.
Do you mind, Brooks, if I give them, just because they just moved into that room, give them like 2 more minutes?
Let's do 150. Yeah.
150? All right, I will text you or Teams, whichever one works for you.
I'll say we will. I'm just going to message her.
You're going to what a Huda?
I just sent a message to everybody that we're going to rejoin.
I wish I had the ability because I was trying to help you, but I couldn't figure out how to move people.
Yeah, you're a co-host, but I don't know why.
It wouldn't let me do anything. Hi, Bill. Are you just joining us?
Yes, unfortunately, I am.
Okay, no problem. So everybody has moved off into a breakout room right now, based off of UDL some principles. So you should be
I was
able
wondering
to.
why I was so lonely.
Yeah, you should see a little button that says breakout rooms, and you can feel free to join whichever one you like.
I do.
So feel free to pick which one.
I
and
was
you can
joining.
jump
It says
to-
representation here.
Yeah. I think
Okay.
I think we auto assigned, but you can choose which one you want to go to. Everyone will start coming back here in a couple minutes.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming back. The other rooms will be coming back here in about a minute or two. So if you guys just want to hang out for a second, Brooks and the rest of the team will be here shortly. And everybody comes flooding back.
Oh, sorry, my group didn't see the notification, so I'm still sitting here babbling.
Oh, sorry about that shuffle to get you all in a breakout room. It didn't work quite out like how we expected, but hey, it's part of the learning process. So I hope you all can learn something from our mistakes.
That's what my group, that's what I was just saying. If you're flailing and going, what's going on? It means you're succeeding.
Yeah. We're modeling what the virtual program experience is like. So y'all, we only have 10 minutes left for today, or 8 minutes, I should say. So we wanted to have a chance to share out some of the stuff that we just talked about. I gave my group a heads up, in the last 20 seconds that, we might ask them to actually speak. So I think the easiest way to do this would be if you were to raise your hand. And if you just want to share any kind of nugget or kind of aha moment, and we'll have a chance to do this tomorrow morning as well, of any wisdom or little gem that came up in your breakout session. And if nobody talks, we'll just start calling on them. So again, yeah, if you can raise your hand, use that function, that would be the easiest way. Yeah, Catherine.
Hi, so I was in the group that was talking about ways to, oops, I just lost my train of thought, action and expression. And we spent a lot of time talking about what barriers we've experienced. The biggest barrier will come as a shock to everyone. There's a pandemic. I know, right? And we don't know what to plan for. And so we're all kind of using multiple means of communication already. That was one of the kind of core tools. So using multiple media. So we're talking about Facebook, we're using Instagram, we're using Zoom, we're using newsletters, reaching out to newspapers, we find that we're reaching really different audiences with each of those tools, and talked about kind of some different things to add in. I lost who it was. One of my colleagues mentioned that she's been sending a monthly postcard to her teens, which just highlights, hey, this is what's coming up this month. This is how you can connect to the library. And that's something that I thought might actually be really helpful, at least for a small number, if you've got a group engaged already. And then we talked a little bit about being able to do mailing on a larger level, that's expensive. And also, like, at least in my case, I'm a branch librarian in a very large system, so I don't have the control over that kind of contact with our patrons. That's something that would happen kind of above me in our organization. And then we also talked about like different ways of engaging. So ideas of like take and make programs that, because we don't know what we're doing, we will be planning for potentially in-person programs, hybrid programs, and at least in our case, we're still planning potentially an all online summer. So like knowing that you're planning 3 summer reading programs, and that's the reality we have right now. But that we'll have different levels of engagement with our patrons no matter what we're doing. So like ways for them to experience those events. So maybe you take this stuff and make it, maybe you have the instructions and you use tools at home, or you use different kinds of materials. And please jump in if I've missed anything or left anything out, but those were the highlights that I jotted down. So thank you.
Catherine, one thing that's sticking out to me too is this, like, you know, we're kind of being forced to do that, provide multiple entryways. And this is out of necessity right now, but when we come out of this, I hope we kind of you know, it is more work sometimes and it's a different way of thinking about things, but it kind of gets us in that mindset of being like, hey, even, you know, it's safe to do in person, but maybe we have a group of people that can't do in person still because they live far away. So maybe we offer a hybrid style.
I know that for me as a teen librarian, that's actually something that I hope comes out of this. I feel like we have kind of given proof of concept that digital programming works. This summer, we had an online volunteering program, and we reached kids we wouldn't have otherwise. So even though we've missed kids we would have seen if we were in person, we reached kids who don't have rides or who can't physically get to our building. Or maybe they're not able to carve out enough time to commute and participate, but they could participate. So I'm hoping that we can take good things from this and continue to use the tools.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of piggyback on that. We found our story time, if we had 15, 20 kids, we're a small library, we were thrilled. And our story time is upwards of the hundreds now. And that tells us a couple of things. Most importantly, we are reaching people that couldn't make it to the library for in-person story time. And so our virtual programming is exploded. You know, every week I put out a list of all these virtual programs. Most of them we don't do, we're just connecting with someone else. And we're getting so much feedback from people that never connected to the library before because they couldn't get here. So that's the silver
Absolutely.
And
Brooks, if it's were you gonna say you wanted to read what Susan wrote?
I did want to say that. Yeah, that's really, really, really awesome feedback. Let me just get up to it. Yeah, Susan just says, trying to juggle all the screens and platforms is a bit hard. It can be challenging for those with executive function difficulties and seem overwhelming. Absolutely. And that's, yeah, not really related to summer programming specifically, but yeah, you're bringing up a great point in that contrast between these are like the wonderful, awesome things that this tech can do, and these are some of its limitations. It's a great comment, Susan.
Further reinforcing the need for multiple means of representation.
Thank you. I actually am the one who's struggling with it, and I think it can be really overwhelming. When I went to grad school, it was when they first launched those online classrooms, and you know, accessing your email and your assignments, and somehow just having all of that all at once, I felt overstimulated, and I find the same thing in this situation as well. But again, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk so much. I'm going to be quiet now.
No, I really appreciate that insight. And, you know, it's, gosh, you can think like, well, people will get used to it. People will figure it out, you know, and it's not, you're right. You're bringing up a really great point there.
Well, and honestly, if you look at the autism spectrum, you know, for especially for kids you're trying to reach, sometimes overstimulation can have such a negative impact. And so it's how do you keep them engaged without being too overstimulating? So no, it's a very valid argument and way of looking at something.
So guys, it looks like the consensus in the chat is that Catherine needs to share more about her volunteer program. Catherine, don't feel obligated to explain it all now. Maybe you can provide like a link or something tomorrow, or if you want to say something now, that's fine too.
I was just going to say, I don't need to like take us down a rabbit hole. If people who are interested wanted to email me, do you want me to just put my email in the chat, or do you want a summary here?
Yeah, fortunately, we probably have to close out really soon. So yeah, if you just want to drop your email in the chat, and then if maybe we had an extra time tomorrow, which I highly doubt we will. So with that being said, gosh, I wish I did not have something else to jump off to, because I would offer to just stick around and kind of talk with you all and discuss, but I do have to head off to another call. There is a little bit of homework, and we actually skipped out on a part of the presentation today, just because we knew you all were gonna have great dialogue with us. So we will see you tomorrow at 1 p.m. Jessica or Sina, do you want to talk a little bit just about what to do this evening or tomorrow morning before the next one?
We both do that because I'm going to talk about the UDL buffet and then let her talk about the other aspect. So the piece that we skipped today was what's called the UDL buffet. And if you've watched the video from Katie Novak, she refers to serving up the buffet. So to dig a little deeper into these principles, we actually curated an entire buffet for you. So you can go in and you can decide what is the best representation that you would like to investigate deeper into UDL. So just, that's all in the Google Classroom. You just click on the UDL buffet. You'll see a number of links. You can choose any one of those, multiples, whatever, just to dig a little deeper into some of the topics that we've talked about today. Sina.
Okay, I've got 30 seconds. Here we go. I plugged a link into the chat. It's just a Google form so we can get some feedback from you about how you thought today went, what you liked about today, maybe what you'd like to see us incorporate tomorrow. So I would love it if you would just take a minute or two and give us your feedback. And then we're also going to ask that you take a little time to process what you've learned today and apply it to your summer programming. So we'd like you to just maybe find 2 or 3 ways that you can use what you learned today to modify your summer programming so that you can reach more patrons. And whether that's completely digital or whether it's in person, that's completely up to you. It's all about how can you use this to make your programming better. So whatever's going to help you. And then we would like you to document that somewhere, and you can choose your own representation of how you would like to do that. So you can simply write it down somewhere. You can make a little Google slide about it. You can make a quick little video. You can put it on a Padlet. I did put a couple of different links to various ways you could represent it in the Google Classroom. If you haven't joined the Google Classroom, please do so. That's where you'll find all of the resources from today. That's where the video for the pre-work was. It has a lot of stuff that you can use in there, as well as a platform for you to kind of share and collaborate with each other. There are several different Google Classrooms, so you may not see everybody from today's call in your Google Classroom, but it's a great place for you to kind of collaborate, to share your ideas. So if you would like to share your 2 to 3 ways that you're going to apply this to your summer programming in the classroom, that would be awesome. And it allows us to kind of all learn from each other. So if you have any questions, if you have any trouble joining the Google Classroom, do please let me know. I'm going to pop my, my email into the chat here. So we can get you all set up.
And yes, Abby, that all that information is in the Google Classroom. I believe that's day 1 content. Yeah.
And we just provide suggestions. You can choose how you want to express yourself, all part of action and expression.
Mm-hmm. All right, y'all. Well, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks for being patient with us. And I hope y'all learned something from each other. And we'll see you tomorrow. And let us know if you have any questions in the meantime. Bye.